In today's world, being busy is often worn like a badge of honor. If your calendar isn't packed, it almost feels like you're doing something wrong. But research out of Princeton University shows something surprising. Once our basic needs are met, more money or more busyness doesn't necessarily make us any happier. In fact, constantly pushing our brains without rest leaves us more vulnerable to burnout and chronic stress. We've all met people who brag about being too busy to eat lunch, relax, or even get a full night's sleep. Yet that kind of unending hustle often leaves life feeling empty, like running on a treadmill that never stops. Simplicity isn't laziness. It's about creating space to live intentionally instead of rushing from one thing to the next. 1. Free time sparks creativity. The human brain needs downtime. When life is too hectic, we're stuck reacting instead of truly thinking. That's why great ideas often show up in the shower, on a quiet walk, or right before bed. Simplicity gives us more of these moments, those mental pauses where creativity can finally breathe. Philosophers, artists, and innovators have long known that freedom of thought is a luxury. In a culture obsessed with productivity, we forget that creativity is born from silence, not chaos. 2. Simplicity reduces stress. Back-to-back meetings, endless notifications, and overstuffed to-do lists push our nervous system into overdrive. By stripping life down to what truly matters, we quiet the noise. Imagine choosing only a handful of priorities each day. Suddenly, meals don't feel rushed, sleep comes easier, and your body finally gets a chance to reset. Simplicity doesn't mean doing less for the sake of it. It means focusing on what actually matters for your well-being. 3. Relationships get stronger. When busyness runs the show, relationships are the first to suffer. You might be sitting at dinner, but mentally you're still at work. By living more simply, you give yourself permission to be fully present. Think of a family dinner without phones buzzing on the table, or a weekend coffee with a friend where the conversation isn't squeezed between other obligations. These small, undistracted moments build the kind of deep connections that truly sustain us. 4. Gratitude comes back into focus. Constant striving blinds us to what's already in front of us. Simplicity slows us down enough to notice. A quiet morning coffee at home, savored without rushing, can feel more satisfying than any overpriced latte grabbed on the run. Gratitude isn't about luxury, it's about paying attention. When we appreciate the small joys, we stop chasing validation through endless achievement. 5. Space for self-reflection. Hustle culture rarely leaves time to ask the big questions. Am I living in a way that aligns with my values? Even 10 minutes of journaling or mindful reflection each day can reveal patterns, habits draining our energy, or commitments we never actually wanted. Simplicity gives us space to course correct before we drift too far from the life we actually want. 6. Freedom from external validation. Let's be honest, much of our busyness comes from appearances. We want to look successful, important, in demand. Simplicity challenges that. It asks choosing a quiet weekend at home with a book over running to every social event just to be seen. When we stop performing for others, we reclaim authenticity. That's where real contentment lives. No audience required. 7. A greater sense of control. When we stop overscheduling, we start making choices with intention. Life feels less like survival mode and more like strategy. With breathing room in your schedule, you can plan your finances, care for your health, and invest in relationships. Challenges still come, but you face them with a calm, steady mind. Simplicity doesn't remove problems, it equips you to handle them. Busyness promises fulfillment, but often delivers emptiness. Simplicity, on the other hand, opens the door to creativity, gratitude, connection, and peace of mind. So here's the question worth asking. What kind of busyness steals your happiness the most? Share your thoughts. You might just help someone else recognize the same trap. And if this resonates with you, pass it along. Maybe slowing down is the reminder we all need.